Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Paradox Untold Stories from Athletic Directors. We'd like to start off with a thank you to our sponsor, Ticket Spigot. They're the official NIAAA ticketing partner, and they make this and every episode possible. Let's jump right in with our guest today, Clayton Harrell. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. Thank you guys. It's an honor to be here, and I love sharing stories and hearing stories. So, thank
Well,
you.
great. That's what we're looking forward to them. I am Dr. Danielle LeBoyne, and my co-host is Dr. Dustin Smith. How are you doing today, Dustin?
Man, I'm hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit, Danielle. I know you love that.
No, that's my I hate that one. You started off with that.
One of my Dustinisms, but man, I'm excited to be here on a real note. I'm excited because we get to come hang out in Arkansas, and we've been all over the country. We've gotten to meet people from Washington, from Florida, from Utah, from North Dakota, about as far north as you can be in the continental United States. We visited all kinds of parts of the country, but we get to go home for me. And when I say home, I'm a transplant or an implant, whatever you want to call, into Arkansas. But one of the guys that I know really well and gotten to know on this AD journey that I've been on is Clayton Harrell. And Clayton is, for those of you watching on YouTube, can see that he's really big with the Broyles Award for the high school. The high school Broyles Award. There's one for the college level as well, but Clayton does a lot with the high school level Broyles Award, and we'll talk about that also. Important because that's an Arkansas guy too that's part of this. So Daniel, I'm just warning you, you're way outnumbered in today's
I know. I prepared myself with extra caffeine for my Arkansas boy episode. Like I knew what was going to happen here.
I will assure you, I will not call the Hogs. I cannot speak on behalf of Clayton, but I will not call the Hogs.
Nope.
But Clayton and I go way back through a variety of interests. I guess we'll say it that way. But Clayton has been an athletic director. He started at a young age, really, as an athletic director, and has been in the private sector as far as private schools, which is a different perspective than what we deal with. And when I say we, Danielle, this is where I'm outnumbered because I've been at public school. You were at the private as well. So is Clayton. So it's been.
No, I was public. I was public as well.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we didn't know your co-host, Dustin. We didn't know your co-host.
I just want to make them public or private because that's what people do to Greenwood in the state of Arkansas. They say Greenwood's the largest public school or private school in Arkansas, which isn't true, but that's the statement people make in Arkansas. And Clayton probably can attest to that. He may have heard that. He may have even uttered that at some point. But Clayton is here with us today, and man, I'm pumped because this is home for me. This gives me a chance to connect to somebody who speaks the Archie language, if you will, that can understand my dialect, can understand my accent, can understand some of the sayings that I make. So I'm excited you're here. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for just taking a chance on a couple people that are doing a podcast that really trying to help athletic directors.
Oh, listen, I've listened briefly to a few, and listen, this is great. This is fantastic. I think this gives ADs an opportunity, when they have a few minutes themselves to, laugh and say, you know what, I don't have it worse. That guy did, or that lady did. So, it's great. And, as far as calling the Hogs, listen, I married into the Arkansas royalty family, however you want to put it. I call the Hogs when I have to. But when they play my boys down south that wear the purple and gold, there is no calling of Hogs anytime, anywhere that I don't have to. But it's all in good fun. So yes, I'm a transplant as well. But I got to tell you, I absolutely love living in the state of Arkansas. The beauty that when you live in Southeast Texas for as long as I did, and it's called the armpit, right, of Texas, it's just nasty and sweaty and hot, and you come up here to Northwest Arkansas, it's absolutely gorgeous. And so I love it. And you're right. I used to call it Arkansas, right? Is that what everybody calls it outside of
Les
Arkansas?
Miles called it.
Arkansas. Les Miles called it Arkansas. Just so, anyways, yes, it's an honor to be here, guys. Looking forward to it.
Clayton, let me ask you this question, just so our listeners can it's a two-part question. One, geographically, tell people where you are in Arkansas. Yes, there is running water. Yes, we have indoor plumbing. So all the jokes that you may make or may assume about Arkansas is not really true. But tell people where you're at in Arkansas, and then also follow that up with, tell us about who Clayton Harrell is outside of being an athletic director. Just kind of tell us what the resume is not going to tell us about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who are unfamiliar with Arkansas, I live in Northwest Arkansas. So Missouri is 30 minutes north, Oklahoma's 30 minutes west, and there's Ozark Mountains close. And we have three things here. We have Walmart, JB Hunt, and Tyson's Chicken. So we've got all three world headquarters right here in Northwest Arkansas. So when people say, where's Northwest Arkansas? People outside the sports world may not know. This is where the University of Arkansas is, the Razorbacks. And so outside of that, we're pretty well known for those three things. And it's just absolutely gorgeous up here. And yes, there's running water and all of the fine things that come with life. There's no Cheesecake Factory, which they keep saying they want up here, but honestly, I don't think you need a Cheesecake Factory. I mean, there's just those are the small things that you don't need to worry about. So, man, as far as who Clayton Harrell is, guys, I knew at an early age that I wanted to be in high school athletics. I had an opportunity in college to be a graduate assistant at a D1 college basketball program. Turned it down just because, one, I knew that I didn't want to be a college basketball coach. And the life that looks like, and you're gone all the time, the recruiting now looks completely different than when it did, almost 18 years ago. And so I just knew kind of early age sports was going to be in my life. And, I was raised to play sports. Dad coached me, played all of them. Quickly found out I was not good at a few of them, but I still played them because I, loved it, loved being on the team, loved that team camaraderie that you try to build as an athletic director. You try to build that same, environment when you're running the program. And I just knew in college, hey, I wanted to be an athletic director. I wanted to be a head coach and an athletic director. And man, God blessed me with that opportunity at the age of 26. And I was dumb enough to take the job. I mean, I was 26. Okay. This is how crazy, great, dumb, all in one. I was 26. They offered me the athletic director job of a brand new high school for $26,000. And I said, yes, that's great. I'll take it. Had no clue what I was getting into. $26,000 in Houston, Texas. That doesn't get you anywhere. So it was a learning experience. But we had 200 something kids in the first year. And this is private school. Okay. I came from public school, went into private school. They eclipsed they thought they'd have 50 high school kids in the first year. They had over 250. I mean, it was remarkable what they were able to do. And then we were able to build, I was there for 7 or 8 years, and we were able to build that program into, where we added all the sports. And I got to tell you, if you've never been an athletic director, going through starting a program, it can be one of the most rewarding, but also one of the scariest experiences you've ever been through. But try doing that times 20, right? Because you're adding from anywhere from girls volleyball to girls golf to boys, soccer to boys baseball to football. I mean, all of that, and swimming. I mean, I've got stories of swimming. When I became an athletic director, I walked into the school and they're like, man, we need to start swimming. I'm like, swimming's what you do Sunday afternoon on the barbecue. They're like, no, we're competitive. We swim. And I'm like, who swims competitively? I mean, that's kind of like track, right? Like who runs competitively? And so, it's just one of those. And man, it's just one of those things that I knew early on. This is what I wanted to do. Being a part of building an athletic program that you can directly affect and have influence over coaches and also athletes. And that's just something that, I think most ADs, when they get into it, maybe some of them think about it, maybe some of them don't, but you have a direct impact on lives, hundreds of lives. You don't even realize it sometimes. Every decision you make, everything that you look through, and that's what drives me, and that's what drove me even at the age of 26, is I wanted to be the best. And I'm not a win at all cost guy, but certainly at that varsity level, let's compete at the highest level. Let's go out. I didn't care if we played. We're a small private school. Let's go play the big public schools. Who cares if we get our brains beat in? That great. I had a coach tell me once, "You don't learn anything from losing." I said, "Well, you're not a good coach, man. I learned a lot from losing." Every game we lost, I'm like, "All right, I want to make sure we don't do that again." Whether it's play that opponent or whether it's the mistakes you made in the game, make sure you learn from those mistakes. And so, there's just so many life lessons that you learn in sports, and this is not to take away from education, because you learn a lot in the classroom. But I would love it when teachers, would get in arguments about whether sports were important or not. And I just said, where can you learn the value of overcoming a mistake than if you're sitting in front of 5,000 people and you miss a free throw that could have won the game? I mean, nobody's watching you take a math test. And if you miss a question, you don't know if you miss it right then and there or not. Those consequences come later. And I used to tell coaches, and you have to encourage them, listen, that kid missed the free throw. Guess what? You don't have to tell him that. He knows it. And so does everybody else in the facility know it. And so it's, you take those lessons and you apply them, and not only are you coaching athletes, but you're coaching coaches. And there's a lot of fun times that comes with that. I mean, there are late nights, there are road trips, there are coaches meetings, and there are parents meetings that you just sit there and you just have to scratch your head sometimes and think, what am I doing?
I was gonna say, you just said a lot of fun times, then you listed a whole bunch of things I don't know if I would say are necessarily fun.
I want to go back to a statement you made early on, and I'm not sure if I heard it right, but I think you said you were 26 and you were dumb, D-U-M-B, but was it that, or did you say I was done, D-O-N-E?
It could be both. I mean, you could try either one if you wanted to. I mean, you really could. I look back, right? When you're 26, you think you know everything. I mean, these young coaches, when they get out of college and their assistants, they think that they know everything, right? And so they come in hot shots. They don't have kids, so they don't know how to communicate to parents. They don't know how to communicate to kids, but they know how to coach, right? Because they've been taught and they've played it. So therefore, they know how to coach. And when you're 26 and you get handed the keys to an entire athletic department, right? You're on the senior administrative team. I look back, how many go? I don't even know when that was. When was that? 2006. So I just dated myself. Sorry, but you look back and you're like, I was dumb to take that job, and they were dumb to hire me.
Were they? They paid you $26,000.
Well, that's true. That's true. They were like, you know what? We're not going to be good anytime soon, so let's pay the least amount we can pay, and maybe he'll just get it started, and we get someone in later down the road. So,
did you negotiate it all, or was it simply, yeah, I'll do it? Just
no. Listen, when they hand you the offer, like, hey, we want you to be the athletic director for $26,000. I mean, it didn't take much time to think, well, maybe I should negotiate. No, I just said yes. Where do I sign on the dotted line? Now, here's the funny part. 2 years later, they realized, and this is going to sound cocky, and I'm sorry, but 2 years later, they said, hey, we're not paying you enough. And I wanted to say, you think? And so they said, name what you want to make. Name what you want to make, all right? This is 2008. I was dumb again, and I said, 40,000. They said, okay. I'm like, wait, that was too simple. That was way too easy. I just was like, man, let me get a $10,000 raise, right? Let me just go that way. Well, I learned this the third time around. Finally, I learned it. I was like, no, we're not doing this again. You tell me what you think I'm worth. And they tell me, I'm like, no, I need more than that. So I learned the third time.
I was gonna say, I can relate to. I also became an AD at 26 years old, but I am happy to report that I made significantly more than 26,000 my first year.
Yeah, so maybe that story just completely verified what you should have said. You were dumb.
Yes, yeah. People think these private schools have money. Some private schools don't. they don't. So
especially those startups, ones, those new ones.
Those startups. Let me just say this: the third time around, the salary was I'll leave it at that. It was not left to be desired. It was well worth it. So it took long enough.
That's probably, and part of this is we take some takeaways, and I know this is a story of just about who you were, but as you think about it from an AD chair or somebody listening to this podcast saying, all right, that's what he did in 2006 and 2008, and who knows how many times since that point. Mm-hmm. But some of this is the negotiation part. Yeah. And I like what you're saying. What do you think I'm worth?
That's
what I think I'm worth. What do you think I'm worth?
That's exactly it. Put it back on you're not putting them in a bad position. You're just saying, what do you think I'm worth? And then now it's on the administration, whether it's the superintendent, the principal, the school board, because in public school, I think the school board has to vote, on the athletic director position. See, in private school, it's all the head of school, the superintendent. The school board at private school has one employee. That's the superintendent, the president, head of school. And the public school, they got all the employees, right? I mean, they have to approve everybody. So it's a little different than private school ranks, but you could still go to your supervisor in public school and say, what do you think I'm worth? And see, what I did prior to that third time was—
You can do that as a public school employee. You could do that, and then he can give you whatever number you want to hear, but it's not what you're getting in your paycheck. That's not the way public school works. Not here in Florida, anyway.
Well, here's what I would tell athletic directors, and sometimes, in some cases it could be, not worth it, but in some cases it is. What I did prior to that was I had real conversations with ADs with schools my size in my area. What are you making? Do you have an assistant? What do they make? What do your head coaches make? What is your athletic budget? So you put all that data together, and then now you have a case. Like, wait a second, our enrollment's higher. We're more successful. These guys are making this amount of money with an assistant. I need an assistant, and this is what I need. And look, it's not going to work in every case. It doesn't. Just what works there is not going to work there. But at least you'll feel good about what do you feel like your value is. And at the end of the day, we all know we don't do it for the money, right? You don't become an athletic director because they're paying you a ton of money. You do it because you love what you're doing. Now, you need to be able to provide for your family. You got to be able to make a living. But 26,000 back then, it was horrible, but it wasn't poverty. You know what the sad thing is? I don't know if I should say this, but I don't care. I made $500 more than I should have for my kids to have the public insurance or whatever. I made $500 more. If I made $500 less, I could have gotten my kids on the insurance for the state, which that's a whole nother conversation. But that's how low it was. That's how low it was.
Well, I feel like you kind of already told us a funny story, and it was really just about you. It wasn't even the funny story part yet.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with the funny stories. I'll tell you this. This is funny to me. I don't know if it's funny, and if this mom ever heard this, she probably wouldn't think it's funny, but I think it's funny, and it's dumb. It's the dumbest thing that you'll ever have to deal in private school, and I hope that no one ever has to deal with this ever. And I've got more, but this one just is at the top of my list because, at private schools, everybody likes to pick about. They love to just have their issues that they have, right? Like every parent, as you guys know, they just love to have their issues. If they're not a part of the solution, then they're part of the problem, right? So And if everything's going right, they're going to find something that they can just hinge onto and grab onto and just make your life miserable. So we are playing for homecoming. This is football, okay? And our colors are navy and white, and we have gold as an accent. So we got gold jerseys for homecoming. We were like, let's do something, fun, because kids love that stuff, right? They love like a gold jersey that they don't know, they get to wear once a year and they get excited about it. So, we also did gold socks. I literally had a mom unannounced, didn't call, didn't set up a meeting, which is my, look, if you want to meet with me, if you're a parent, schedule a meeting first. And you got to tell me what it's about. You can't just come in unannounced. Well, somehow she found a way through the secretaries, opened my office door. I'm on the phone and says, I need to talk to you. I'm like, oh, at that point, what do you say, right? You can't say no. I mean, you can, but
you can't turn away Ninja Mom. She just got to your office.
I'm in a meeting.
I'm on the phone. She's like, I need to talk to you now. I'm like right now, or can we just wait? She goes, I need to talk to you now. So she sits down. I'm still on the phone. So I'm like, oh, hey, I got to let you go. I said a parent walk into my office. I didn't want to be rude and be like, this woman's crazy. So I just said, look, I'll call you back here a little bit. So I hang up the phone. I turn around, I'm like, so-and-so, what is so important? Guys, I kid you not. I cannot make this up. She holds up a pair of gold socks and says, this is not our gold color. I said, time out. You mean to tell me you somehow find your way through the maze to get to my office to tell me this is not the right gold for the socks that we're wearing on Friday? Great. I'm so glad this is so important to you. I said, I tell you what, you go find the gold socks that you think we should wear for Friday. You purchase them and we'll wear those. That's it. And she was like, well, okay. And turned and walked out. I'm just like, there are a lot of things that go on in that athletic department. The last thing I care about are some socks. Really? Really? The head coach picked them. I could care less. I'm like, look, man, you pick whatever socks you want. You want to wear white? You want to wear purple, pink? I don't care. It was October, so wear pink. I don't care, Like just pick some socks and go with it. I don't care.
For clarification on the story, was it actually the incorrect gold shade, or was it?
First of all, I couldn't tell you because I don't know the PMSL color of gold socks. I have no idea what the PMSL color of socks are. And I just looked at her and I literally, it took everything within me at a Christian school not to say words that you're just like, are you serious? Socks.
I feel like I can super relate to your story because one of the high schools I was at was green and gold. And I had this issue with both the forest dark green, whatever company wanted to call it, and also the gold/yellow. Sometimes it was yellow and that was a rival school's color, or if it was gold. So I feel your pain, but I do enjoy the gravity of the sock situation.
I've got a couple of questions, if you will allow me to ask some questions. But one of which, we're just going to talk about how the ninja got through, as you called her, Danielle, how ninja got through all of the security measures to prevent that. What was that conversation like with the secretary or those people? How did this happen?
Let me tell you how that happened. So she left, the mom left, and you could tell that people knew I was, pardon my French, pissed. Like they could tell. I don't get angry often. Like I don't get, I'm a pretty low key guy. It doesn't take a lot to get me riled. But everybody knew that was the last mama that I wanted to come to my office unannounced. Everybody knew that. They knew that up front. She's not a problem. She likes to make her way and likes to make a scene. So whatever. And she had 6 kids in the athletic department. So that was a whole nother story. because I had her everywhere. Like it didn't matter what sporting event I went to.
Because she's Ninja
there.
Mama. That's why.
She is there. I'm like, wait, didn't I just see you over there? And so I walked up to the front and I just quietly shut the office door. And everybody just kind of looked like, what's about to happen? And I just said, if that woman ever gets to my office again without any type of warning, it's going to be crazy in this office. I'm talking about stuff's going to get thrown. I mean, it's not going to be pretty for everybody. So let's just make sure she never finds her way to my office. And I'm in the back. Like, I wish I could show you the layout, right, and give you a play-by-play. But I'm like, literally, it takes about 3 minutes to get to my office when you enter the headquarters, the main office. I mean, I don't know how she figured out a way. And I think if I'm remembering, I had a very great assistant. I mean, she's one of the best. And she kept everybody out of the office. And she knew, like, if my door shut, like, hey, this is not the time. But I think she was gone that day or something. That's the only thing I can say. Like, this mama knew that my assistant was gone. So she's like, this is my opportunity. I'm gonna make a break for it.
Well, everywhere. That makes sense because, I mean, she knew where you were before you knew where you were.
And
so I think that
yes.
The funny thing to me is, I mean, I'm trying to be you and just be on the phone, having a conversation that was important for you. Obviously, you're on the phone, and she comes in and says, I need to talk to you right now. Like, I'm thinking at that moment, there was a level of panic that may have gone through your mind saying, oh boy, what do
happened?
We have? And you know, our knee-jerk reaction is, oh crap, what is this about to be? So you hang up the phone and then she says it's about socks. Now, for Becky Moran, this may mean something to have socks. That may be something that they want to be aware of. But for you to be able to say, as soon as that was delivered, you said, the socks aren't the right color. I'm trying to just visualize what my reaction would have been. But I think sarcasm would probably have been laid on pretty heavy if it was me in that situation.
Well, so two things went through my mind at the time. I could have gone one of two directions. The F word was very close to coming out of my mouth, but it didn't. I held back.
You're not talking fine or something like that. You've done different.
Oh, no, I'm talking the worst one you could possibly say. I mean,
Rhymes
I literally
came
to my, yes, it literally came to my mind. Like, are you
trying to give me the benefit of the doubt?
And the next thing that came to my mind was like the Allen Iverson approach. Are we talking about socks? Like, not any. Are we talking about socks? Like gold socks.
Like a one-time sock, not every week.
Yes,
just a one-time sock.
This is one time that those kids are wearing it, and that's it. And Dustin, you said I was on, and I can't remember the phone call I was on. I mean, it was like a conference, like with district ads or something like that. I can't remember. We were having an issue, and I just remember I was like, I hung up, with 7 or 8 other athletic directors for socks.
Real issue. You were having a real issue.
And it's like, how am I going to explain this to these guys? Hey, the reason I cut our meeting short was I had to handle this. But, fear did set in when you said it, Dustin, because her son was the starting quarterback. So when she walks in the room, I'm thinking, oh, crap, like, what happened to her son? Like, is he not playing? Is he injured? What is going on? And so, she just wanted to make sure her baby looked good in some gold socks. That's all it was.
No,
did she get new socks, or did you wear these awful socks that you purchased for your football team?
No. So I mean, full circle is she came back and she's like, I can't find any socks. And I said, then just wear the ones that I got. I mean,
like you told me she bedazzled them or something and put all kinds of jewels on them because that may be in the craze at that time. But
but that was the moms all wore gold shirts that had and she was in charge of that. She was in charge of the bedazzles. So I'm glad she didn't. Thank goodness. That would have been. I mean, we lost the game, so it would have probably made it worse. They had bedazzles on their socks.
My wife had some heartburn with Notre Dame because their pants don't match their helmet.
No.
And she points that out every time Notre Dame's playing. Their football pants don't match their helmet. That doesn't matter. I mean, that's not even the same goal. And I'm like, that's the least of my concerns. I mean, they all sweat
Well,
and turns white in or wet anyway.
I feel like every AD who's listening to this, whose school's color has gold in it, is like, yes,
Yes.
I feel your pain. I know what you're saying.
Like I would, if I could go back to, I think, what year was that? 2008, I guess. I can't remember, but no, I can't remember. Anyways, if I could go back, I would just, and knowing that what she's about to say, I think I would have been a smart ass and said something probably would have ticked her off. You're caught off guard in the moment because you don't know what's about to happen. And then she pulls the socks out and you're like, are we talking about socks? Like, I don't care. I told the coach to go down to the academy and buy 40, 50 pairs of socks. Whatever gold they had, just buy them. I don't care. Like, you know, that's because the kids wanted to wear gold socks, and BSN at the time couldn't get me, you know, that number, that many pair of socks. But we had 5 academies in the Houston area, and you better believe we bought out all the pairs of socks from all those academies.
I mean, we're boring because we're navy and white, so there's not a whole lot of, it's hard to mess up one white, but it's hard to really mess up navy if you do it right. But you know, I'm thinking you're only making 26,000 in 2008. I might have said a couple things. I mean,
hey, this job ain't worth over this socks.
You got some wiggle room in there.
Yeah, you weren't the next Bill Gates. That wasn't happening. No. You were trying to challenge him from the financial standpoint. So I may have just said something that just was like.
I did. I told her, I said, listen, you wanted to wear a different pair of socks, you go buy them, because I'm not. We already bought these.
It's such a perfect example of like the AD and the football coach trying to do something like fun and nice and exciting for the kids, and it turns out to be like an issue. Like what? I
think you said it early, Clayton, and you may not have said it in these words. And sometimes I get ridiculed for my statements, but I think you said it. There are people who are looking for problems with every solution.
Yes.
So they're not they're not part of the solution. They're just the problem.
No.
The solution. So you present a solution. Hey, we're going to have these gold socks.
It's going to be great. Kids are going to love it. No, we have to have a problem with them.
Right.
Afterwards, I looked back and I said, man, I knew everything was going too well for that to happen. I mean, you know, everything was going. I hadn't heard from her in a while. And when she walked in, I thought, oh, man. And then she brought up the socks, and I was like,
Did you ever wear gold socks again?
Oh, no. I ruled it out.
Learn that lesson.
Hell no. We are not doing gold socks. Like they were fortunate enough that I let them wear gold jerseys after that, because I didn't want to deal with that either. So, you know, and you're right, Danielle. You try to do something nice for them, and parents will always. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on parents. You know, there's some great parents out there, but they're always the 1% of parents that just find a way to just be a thorn in your side. And it's just one of those things that you just, you know, and they use that, like, you know, she never used it because they gave money to the school and the athletic department. They give much to the athletic department, which I'm like, look, you got 6 kids in athletics. You probably should give to the athletic department. You got 6 of them in there. So it was one of those that I just look back and I'm like, you know what? I don't know how you handle it differently. I don't know if you can. I just know that we'll never wear gold socks again, and that's a promise. Never. Never.
There must have been a sigh of relief though after your like initial anger wore off and like astonishment of what just occurred, of, well, at least it wasn't anything big. Everybody is okay, and it wasn't a big issue, and it was handled in 5 minutes. So there must have been a little bit of a sense of relief after the initial like, are you kidding me stage wore off.
Yeah, I was more frustrated at the office staff than I was the mom. The socks. Like, don't ever let that happen again. Ever. In fact, 2 years later, I moved my office to the other side of campus. So it took half a year for people to realize where my office was, because we never said, hey, office is over here. So they'd come in looking for me like, no, his office isn't here anymore. Where is it? It's on the other side of campus. Leave it like that. Don't give them a number. Don't tell them exactly where it's at. You know, that. The funny thing about private school parents is, you know, whether they pay $3,000 a year for tuition or $20,000 a year, they all feel entitled that their kid is, the next best, whatever sport it is that they should be playing. And I mean, there's just too many stories. I literally would have parents come to my office, or not come to my office, come to me out when I'm out of the sporting event, because that's really, not that I'm not approachable, because I am approachable, but that's really the only time to get me one-on-one without scheduling something. Because you interact during games, right? That's where you're out in the public, you're shaking hands, you're meeting with the business people, and you're trying to secure donations and sponsorships. And so that they would come up and they'd always say, man, I wish, and it's the subtle hints. They would always be like, oh, I wish Coach would let Ryan do this, or I really think Coach should put Ryan in for a few more minutes. I just look at him, I'm like, I'm not the coach. I don't call plays. I don't substitute. I'm the athletic director. And
I only order socks.
Go ahead.
I only order socks.
Wrong
Apparently
color.
the wrong ones.
Yeah.
If I can't order socks right, how do you think I'm going to put your kid in right? Have the right starting lineup. I can't do socks right. So
Speaking of
was.
Let me ask this question, and maybe this is just me, and I'm going to chase a rabbit here for just a second. But there's a certain name brand sock that you will have a left sock and a right sock. Now, is it just me, or do I put those on opposite feet and just say, now what are you going to do? Wear the right one on the left foot? I mean, if there's sock police out there, I'm in trouble, but I mean,
listen, hey, this mom may have gone and checked every kid to make sure the L was on the L and the R was on the R.
Maybe it's lucky it wasn't at that time, Clayton. You may not have to deal with that, but
no, we were not wearing those socks. We were just wearing the Academy brand, which I don't even remember what brand it was. It was a cheap sock, right? You wear it one time. Like, who cares?
It just costs a little more to go first class. That's what my buddies tell me. Whenever I'm cheap, they'll be like, hey, it just costs a little more to go first class. But I'm thinking, you really have to have an instruction on what foot to put a sock on. There's some problem there, I think.
Hey, I don't even know where to go with that. It's just,
it's just
I
me.
just can't get past. I can't get past the L and the R, and my mind thinking, man, did she really go check all those kids' feet, make sure they put them on the right size? It wouldn't surprise me if she asked the coach, hey, can you make sure the kids put them on the left foot and the right foot? So
that's just where my mind goes, Danielle. You probably know that, but I'm trying to figure out what happens if you put them on the different feet. Do they wear differently?
All I'm thinking about right now is, like, when you use the third sock, do you take the left or the right? I mean, that's not a question I, as a female, can answer. That is a question for you guys. That is not a question for me. That is a question that has come up numerous times in episodes, and I don't have an answer for it.
But if it's the gold left sock or the gold right sock, that may be the question.
That is the question.
So we may need to call this parent in, Clayton, and just kind of get some clarification on.
We need clarification, yeah.
I would love to call my football coach up, because I think his side of the story is funny too, because he goes, hey, what did that parent want? And I said, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. But I told him, I said, what is my number one rule as a head coach? I said, I have one rule for head coaches. What is that rule? He was like, he started thinking. I'm like, I preach it every year. I said, you have one rule as a head coach in my administration, or my whatever program. Your job is to keep parents out of my office. You failed miserably over a sock. Nothing else. It wasn't an injury. It wasn't playing time.
You can't blame your head
over
coach
a dang sock
on a ninja mama. That no head coach is stopping any ninja mom. That is not on him.
She may have needed an audition. She may need to have Tom Cruise on speed dial, Mission Impossible type stuff, or she could just get through stuff that you maybe have booby traps set up. I don't know.
I have this vision of, like, Ninja Warrior, and she's got the socks, like, wrapped around her neck as she's going through obstacle course to get to your office at the end.
And the fact that
she didn't care. Go ahead.
Socks into you and said, "These are the wrong goals."
No, she pulled them out of nowhere. I didn't even know where she had them. Like she walked in, like I saw her walk in head to toe. She didn't have a purse. And then she sits down and she just whips them out of nowhere. I'm like, where the hell do those socks come from? Like, just pulled them out of thin air. I thought maybe I had a pair of socks laying somewhere in my office, you know, and she just grabbed them real quick. No, she just literally pulled them out of nowhere. I'm like,
she had it tucked in the back like a coach's playbook, right in the back of her shorts, ready to go.
Jedi mind trick. She was just deceiving you.
I know this. I know this. That was there are one of many stories with that family that was a family that of the gift that kept on giving. It was never, you think about it. You got 6 kids in athletics. You're gonna deal with them at some point, you know, in every sport. And so they're the family, because I always had preseason meetings like in August. If your kid was going to play sports, you had to come to my, you know, athletic preseason meeting. And we had individual sports, football, volleyball. They'd always have, you know, meet the coaches, but we always did one athletic, because I would tell them every year. I had you know, rules that they had to follow. And one was, and this is somewhat funny. She came back and she was like, "Well, this wasn't one of your rules." And so my rules were this: that I'm not going to talk to parents. Okay. There's 2 sides here, so hang with me. So I had 3 rules. 1, I'm not going to talk to a parent about playing time. Okay. We're not, as an athletic department, we're not going to talk to parents about playing time. If your kid has an issue with playing time, kid needs to go to the coach. Okay. Secondly, is we're not going to talk X's and O's. I didn't hire you to coach. I don't really care what you think X's and O's should be. And third is we're not going to talk about, we're not going to talk about other kids. So if you have an issue with little Johnny or Susie or whoever, Claire, you need to go talk to that parent. We're not getting involved with that. So one day she tried to make a joke. She goes, "Well, it's the sock's not in your rules. So I figured I could talk to you about it." It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to add an addendum to my rules.
I love her.
We don't care about uniforms. We're not going to do it. So
you threw your own rules right back at you. That wasn't a rule.
Right back at me. Right back at me. She goes, you didn't say we couldn't talk to you about socks. I'm like, gosh, like, what do you do? Like, what? Okay, fine.
Touche.
Yes.
Touche.
Great.
You had added another addendum that says you can't come in my office when I'm on the phone and talk to me. Oh. I mean, respect me enough that I'm on the phone. And I've had people walk in and be like, "Oh, you're on the phone," or "You're in a Zoom meeting." I say, "Oh, my bad." But never one just plop down and say, "I need to talk to you right now about something that wasn't important." If it's an emergency, I get it.
Yes. Like, hey, your son's in the hospital. Great. Like, not great, but, you know, like, wow, that's an emergency. But you opened the door that was shut and you see me on the phone and you tell me I need to talk to you right now. Okay. It better be important. You know, like, no, it's about socks. Oh,
I feel like I really enjoyed this story because of how simple it actually is. Because normally, parent comes in and they burst in and there's an issue or you need help, but this is nothing was wrong, nobody was hurt. It's a very thing that we can generally actually laugh about.
Yes.
Like, this is funny, and the fact that she teased you about it even later really like elevates her status in my mind.
When she said that, I said, okay, I can't be mad anymore. I mean, I can laugh at it. But yeah, when she threw it back in my face, like, well, you never said we couldn't talk about socks. Like,
you should have. What you should have done is hired her as an assistant. That's what you should have done. You should have been.
Oh no, that's what she wanted. She wanted me to hire her, and I'm like, no way, no, not a chance, not a chance. Because she'd be in my office every 5 minutes. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about cheerleaders? What do you think about tennis? I'm like, no.
All of your sports would have matched. All their uniforms would have matched.
Well, there was a conversation. We had an issue a couple years ago. I mean, it was scheduled. It was. I do remember telling her one time. I think it was something. She wasn't happy with a decision I made or whatever. And I just looked at her and I said, "If you think you can do better, you are more than welcome to take my job. Come on." Then she backed off real quick. No, I don't. That's not what I want. then let me make my decisions based on what I feel is best for this department. And so, and the superintendent, he backed me up. He was like, look, what are you doing? Be a parent. Go cheer your kid on. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. And that's when we started setting hard, fast rules, like parents are no longer involved in anything. Like, booster club, you raise money. That's it. We don't want your input on uniforms. We don't want your input on coaches. We don't want your input on anything. We'll make all the decisions. Another funny story is I was resigning from a school. Like I accepted an AD job at another school closer into Houston, and we had just had cheerleader tryouts at the school I'm leaving. And as you guys know, cheerleader tryouts, that's a whole another ball.
No joke.
That is
no joke.
and so we as an athletic director, I had one of the best cheer coaches ever. And I would hire her in a heartbeat, if I ever was an AD. In fact, I tried to hire her again, but she didn't. And so she left. So she was leaving. They were moving to another state. Her and her husband moving to another state. So she wasn't coming back. Well, we hired 3 independent judges. So they had no ties to the school. And it strictly was, they were coming in, they were evaluating them right then and there, and that's it. So there's no preconceived, oh, hey, she was on varsity. So anyways, well, I had a parent schedule a meeting. I said, I want to meet with you on this day. I want to talk about, she doesn't want to change anything. She just wants to address her concerns about cheer, whatever, tryouts. I said, okay. It was a week later. Well, 2 days after I set the meeting, I knew that my resignation letter was coming out during the exact time that I was meeting with this lady. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to be the AD until the end of the year. So I'm going to honor the meeting, and I'm going to let her voice her concerns. So we're 15 minutes into the meeting. The letter goes out through email. Like like my resignation letter goes out. So her husband calls her in the middle of the meeting and kept calling her because he knew that she was in a meeting with me. And I know what's about to go down. Like I could just see it. She's like, my husband's calling me. Do you mind if I answer this? And I'm like, absolutely, go ahead. So she gets on the phone. Not 10 seconds into the phone call, she sets it down and she says, you're leaving. You knew this and you still had this meeting. Why'd you let me ramble on? I'm like, what did you want me to do? You want me to just tell you I'm leaving and I don't care? And she was like, but you just let me mumble about stuff you don't even care about anymore. And I'm like, well, that's not true. I do care. I'm leaving. So it's not my problem next year. And she goes, I just can't believe it. She got up and walked out. That was it. Never. I mean, it was a good family. The husband, he would talk to me occasionally because the school that I ended up going to ended up being rivals in the realignment. So they realigned, and so they ended up being in the same conference and district. And so I would see him every year at every other event because we played each other and everything. And she kept hitting me. I still can't believe you let me just go on about cheer and you didn't even care. There's nothing I can do about it. What do you want me to do?
I use 3 initials, NMP, not my problem. That may be what I said here. Hey, not my problem. I mean,
you guys are brutal.
That's not my problem anymore.
My personality was, I at least wanted to hear her so that I could because I knew who the new AD was coming in. No, I didn't at that point, but I knew whoever the AD was coming in, I was going to at least say, hey, because I'm one of these guys, if I leave a place, I'm not going to share information with the new athletic director unless they want it. Because when I was coming into a spot, I didn't want preconceived notions about certain people, right? Let me form my own opinion. Let me learn before I have to make decisions. And so, but I knew if that AD, whoever it was coming in at the time, wanted to know it, at least I would say, hey, this parent, about cheer, just FYI. Well, come to find out that there was a big issue with cheer. he didn't ask, and so I didn't tell him. So there's a big issue with cheer. Fired the cheer coach next year. We get all that. That's just. He goes, I wish you'd have told me. I said, you just had to ask. I'm not going to volunteer that information.
Yeah, not my problem.
I don't. Not my problem.
Meanwhile, I over here left both of my offices like post-it noted with all of like, this is where this is, this is where this is. Whoever came in had all of the pieces of information they possibly could need.
It was very simple. I mean, it was when I took over at St. Thomas in Houston, St. Thomas Episcopal. The coaches were like, hey, we used to do this, we used to do that. And I said, I remember telling one coach, you can do whatever you want for a year, but after that, you're going to do it my way. Just sorry. You guys are not successful. There's a reason I'm coming in. It's to change the trajectory of this athletic program. It's the soccer one I was telling you about. And that's Dustin, you'll love this. So I take over, when I'm leaving that first school for the St. Thomas, the soccer coach, he played there. He was on the state championship team, and then he's been coaching there for 10 years, but they hadn't even sniffed the state championship game, much less won it. And he's all like, man, we're the best soccer program in the state. And I just was like, how many state titles have you won? No, obviously you're not. And so he didn't like the way that I was changing things, because I put him in PE classes, and he had never done PE, and he'd come in at 3:00 and leave at 6. And I'm like, and you get paid how much? You make more for doing that than I did my first year as an athletic director. That's not
more than 26.
You have to do some PE classes. The day before school, I go into his office. It is empty. He had taken everything but the blinds. He even took the desk, and he just left. He did it like at midnight the night before. He just left. Didn't tell anybody. Didn't warn anybody. And
There's
then the parents
so
had the
many
audacity.
ninjas in your life.
And then the funny thing is, I had a parent come up to me that the first day of school. I can't believe you fired the coach. I'm like, what? I didn't fire the coach. He left. Like, he just, why are you mad at me when that coach left your kid high and dry? Literally left your kid high and dry. But yet you would have blamed me because the coach, he had been telling parents, that I'm this mean guy and just going to change things, and we were no longer going to be a soccer school. And I just said, look, parents, that coach left your kids, whether you want to accept that or not, because they wanted to have a meeting about soccer, what direction we were going. And I stopped the meeting because I could tell where it was going. I just said, you know what, guys, at the end of the day, you're mad at the wrong person. You should be mad at the guy who left your kids high and dry. Left them. Didn't even say anything. Just left them. So you can be mad. I had nothing to do with it. So yeah, there are some ninjas in my life. I'm sure there's more at this private school level. It's just is another ballgame. I don't know if we had time to share an Arkansas story up here.
I want to preface this by saying all this happened in Texas. This wasn't in Arkansas.
Yes, this was all Texas. But I'll tell you this. So the school contacts me or contacts this search firm who had my name, and they said, hey, would you be interested in the school? And like the Hunt family was involved with the school, the Simmons, who's chicken, and so forth. So they're building like a $15 million campus. They're adding high school, adding high school sports. And so that's kind of what my background is building programs that either don't exist or, they need a fresh start. And so they brought me in, and they're building these facilities. And everyone that I talked to is like, man, Arkansas is 10 years behind Texas in everything. In high school sports and, just in life, it's 10 years behind Texas.
Just in life.
Whoa.
That's what everyone's like. Why are you going to Arkansas? Why are you going to Arkansas? Like, why are you leaving Texas for Arkansas? And I can remember sitting in meetings and like looking at, what they've been doing and the drawings for their buildings. I just thought, man, why are we doing this? Like, why are you guys doing this? And they're like, well, That's just what we're used to. I'm like, you know, and I started opening up eyes on maybe you should do this. You should add a weight room. Well, why do we need a weight room? Why do you need a weight room? You're in high school athletics. The kid down the street is in the weight room at 3:30 in the afternoon. Your kid's not doing it. So I mean, you know, you add those things, but I'll say this, man, living in Arkansas, every state sports are different. They just are. Texas does it different than Louisiana. Florida does it different than Arkansas. You know, the hardest thing I had to get used to in Arkansas is that a ninth grader could play junior high or varsity. That was the hardest thing to wrap my head around, is that a ninth grader could play junior high in football and varsity in basketball and then go back to junior high in track. And it's just like, man, you know, I thought Texas rules were hard to follow. Man, how in the world, you know, do you keep up with all this? And so, but, you know, I'll say this, Arkansas does a lot of good things, especially at the state level. Dustin, one of the things that I was really impressed with the AAA is, you know, in Texas, it was always the Final Four for everything, right? Like you'd go to a neutral site for basketball, for volleyball, for baseball, and you play the semifinal and you play the state championship game. One thing that Arkansas does that I thought was great was that you have like a state tournament where you narrow it down to your final two, and then you have, like in basketball, you have a Thursday, Friday, Saturday of just nothing but state championship games from 1A through 7A. And I think that's a very, you know, unique approach. And I mean, I love it. I don't know if you love it, Dustin, but I do. I mean, it's just, you know, it makes it easy because, you know, when you have a Final Four, you have to book not knowing whether you're going to play in that last game. Like you may think you are. And so that you're talking about travel and hotels and, okay, we have to book 3 nights, but we may only be there 2 nights. And so it just makes it easy. If you make it, you know, you're going to go in on that day and you're going to come back out the next day, or you're going to go in that morning and come back that night. So it just makes it easy. So anyways.
I want to be clear. It's not the only thing good Arkansas does. Arkansas does a lot of good things, Danielle, before you start firing some shots.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say a thing, Dustin.
Hey, listen, I can tell you this. I don't know what it was like to go to Arkansas football before Sam Pittman. But they're obvious. No, I did. I went to the 2 LSU games where we just annihilated Arkansas here. And so those were great games for me personally. But, you know, I tell you, man, Arkansas athletics right now at the college level, there's a lot of excitement around the state. I mean, I don't know if you feel that down in Greenwood, but there's just a lot of excitement about the sports at Arkansas because they're doing very well. And I've always said, you know, high school sports in each state can lead to success at your colleges in those states. If you've got good high school sports, and you know you're like University of Arkansas has a good base that they can choose from. You know, Texas, I mean, you know, Georgia, Florida, I mean, you know, you've just got so many athletes that they can choose from. You know, Arkansas, I mean, how many high schools in the state of Arkansas, Dustin? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Over 300. I just don't know the exact number.
So University of Arkansas literally only has 300 something schools to pull, you know, a good base of students, and they got to keep them in the state now, right? Texas has 1,800 schools, almost 2,000. You know, so your pool is bigger, but I see Arkansas stepping up with their high school sports, and it's all about venues, right? It's all about, you know, the weight room. It's all about getting coaches educated, getting, you know, buying into a system to where, you know, you're putting the emphasis on athletes to make it a great environment, but you're also making them a better athlete. You're making them a better person. You know, getting them ready for, you know, being an adult. And
color coordinating,
you know, Arkansas,
their uniforms, all of it.
Or coordinating uniforms. I would recommend any athletic director who wants to take on the micromanaging of uniforms, really stop and think about it. Like that's something you should just hand off. Don't even worry about it. Just say, I'm not messing with it. That's you handle it. I don't care. Just here are our PMS colors. Just make sure it fits, and away you go.
Yeah, but clearly,
there are far important things in life to worry about than some dang socks.
And clearly, if you don't have that as one of your rules, though, then people are going to throw that back in the seat. So make sure that you have a very detailed list of things you can and can't talk about, or will and won't talk about.
Yeah, but if it's not your decision, then you don't have to talk about it. See, if the socks are not, and it wasn't even my decision. I just told the coach, go buy the socks. Well, I guess, I still don't understand how that coach, I don't know what he said. I still, to this day, can't get an answer from him. What exactly did you tell that mom that made her want to come to me?
Well, I very much enjoyed our Arkansas episode and hearing and your sock story and about all of the ninjas that you face down there, whether it's desk moving soccer coaches or ninja moms. So I very much.
You said down there. Arkansas is not down there.
Did I say that?
No.
Yes.
You did. You did. You know, Arkansas is north of Florida, right? You do realize if you draw a line, we are north.
Screen, you are down there. My screen, you're right. So I apologize.
We do have mountains, just so you know. There are mountains in Arkansas. Not hills, not low rolling. There are mountains here.
Dustin makes fun of me for saying that, but I mean it with love.
Oh,
yeah. No, I give her a lot of a hard time, but man, it's a lot of fun, and we had fun, Clayton, just being able to live vicariously through you. And now I'll think about socks. Even though gold isn't an option for me, I ain't buying gold socks. That ain't.
You don't have to worry about it.
For me. So
I would just tell any athletic director who thinks, man, let me go to the private school. The grass isn't always greener. It's just not.
And overall, if you have the option of choosing some school colors, gold isn't exactly the easiest one to go with. That is for sure.
I can tell you this: if I ever am ever part of starting a school, gold will not be a color that is on the chart of like colors we should choose. It is not going to be an option. Just not. So we'll keep it simple.
Here's a thought for you, Danielle. They say that the grass is always greener where the manure is.
No, it's still better than the first thing you said, and I'm not going to repeat it because I hate it that much. So still better. I can handle that one. Your opening line today was disturbing. If anyone else agrees with me, I'll never eat a biscuit again.
I will never eat biscuits and gravy the same way. I cannot. You have ruined
Dustin,
biscuits and gravy for me.
See,
it's disappointing. And there's a great restaurant up here, Rolling Pin, that has great biscuits and gravy, and I can't.
I know. It's that's one stuck with me, and I don't enjoy it. So
that, or I'll be checking it before I eat it. Make sure there's nothing in there.
Yeah,
they're resilient. They hang in there really well.
Oh God, no.
I say all that to say, Clayton, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate the opportunity to laugh, and even at your own expense with how dumb you were to commit to 26. All that goes into that. But I understand. I understand the work that deals with parents. We all do that, and so I want to thank you for shedding some light on that, just having a little laugh at parents' expense. And she may never listen to this, but if she does, I want her to know that Clayton told that story. We just laughed at it.
Listen, she'll know if she does listen, she'll know that man is talking about me.
NMP.
She'll know it. She'll call me. She will somehow find my number and call me.
She'll show up at your house is what she'll do.
Oh my gosh. Well, man, it was an honor, Danielle, Dustin. Thank you guys so much. I love what you guys are doing here. It's really great. I know we didn't get into the High School Bros Award, but it just what you guys do for athletic directors, it's needed because I think in today's climate and culture, there are a few laughs, and it's good to have a few, even if it's at my expense. What I want to do is help ADs grow and be better athletic directors. That's just a passion of mine. I love coaches, just from the Burroughs Award, and loving on assistant coaches, who are the next great head coaches. And it's just a joy of mine. And yeah, there's some laughs along the way. And so I've enjoyed it. And I look forward to listening to other ADs now, and I just love listening and hearing stories. So that's why the NIAAA conference is great, because guess what? There's no parents, there's no coaches, there's no students. It's just athletic directors around sharing stories.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Clayton, for being with us today. And thank you to Take It Spigot, who sponsors this episode and every episode here at Paradox, Untold Stories from Athletic Directors. And we will be back next week with another story.